The next lesson that we're going to do is Note 2.7 on order of operations with integers. We're going to use the order of operations to solve problems. The Common Core State Standards and the mathematical practices are listed. So the steps to follow is step 1, you're going to simplify the expression inside grouping symbols. That's your parentheses step, or your grouping symbol step. Your grouping symbols include your parentheses, your absolute value, fractions. Step 2 is simplifying your exponents. Step 3 is multiplying and dividing in order from left to right. And then step 4 is adding and subtracting in order from left to right. We're going to find the value of the expression by following the order of operations. So our first problem is -3 plus 4 times the -5 plus 3 to the 4th power. Our first step is seeing if there is any parentheses. There is none, so we go on to exponents. We have 3 to the 4th power. 3 to the 4th power is 81. Bring everything else down. So we brought down the -3, +4 times -5 plus 81. Next step is multiplication. So we have -3 plus, and it's 4 times the -5, which is -20, plus 81. Next, we have addition, so we're going to add going from left to right, so it's 3 plus a -20 to give you -323 plus 81. In the next step, we have to add again, but we have different signs. So we're going to take the sign of the larger number, that was your 81, and subtract. So 81 minus 23 to give you 58. So your answer is positive 58. Number 2 is -18 divided by 3 times the -2 minus 3 to the 5 to the 3rd power. So 5 to the 3rd power we do first, and that is 125. Bring everything else down. -18 divided by 3 times the -2 minus 125. Our next step, we have division, multiplication, or subtraction. So we have to do the division first. -18 divided by a +3 gives you a -6. Bring everything down. -6 times the -2 minus 125. We have multiplication and subtraction. So multiplication goes next. -6 times the -2 is +12 minus 125. Now, in the last step, we have a subtraction. So we're going to rewrite it to adding the opposite. Now we're going to take the sign of the larger number, that's negative, and we're going to lose better. 125 minus 12 to give you 113, so it's a -113. Our next example, 3, has brackets in them. So we have to do inside the brackets first. And inside the brackets first, we have a set of parentheses. So we're going to rewrite that to adding the opposite. Bring everything down, so it's 4 times, put your bracket, your open grouping symbol, and -15 plus a -9 is -24. Close your parentheses, bring down, and we can also do this in the next step. This is a multiplication, and we can do 8 times a -2, which gives you -16. Close your bracket. Now we have inside our grouping symbols -24 plus a -16, which gives you -40. And bring down the -4 out in front. Our last step is 4 times the -40, and 4 times the -40 is -160. Number 4, we have 2 to the 2nd power plus -8 times a -3. We have to do our exponents first, and 2 to the 2nd power is 4. Bring everything down. We have addition or multiplication, and multiplication comes next. So it's 4 plus 24. Addition is our last step to give you 28. All right, number 5, more grouping symbols. So we have negative 10 times, and then inside our brackets, 6 times negative 2 plus a negative 9, close our parentheses, minus 3 times a negative 8. So the first thing that we're going to go do here is inside your brackets, we're going to do the parentheses. So it's negative 10, we'll bring everything down, 6, and now let's evaluate. Negative 2 plus negative 9 gives you negative 11. Bring everything down, minus 3 times 8. Close your brackets. All right, so inside we have multiplication, subtraction, and multiplication. So our next step is multiplication. Bring down your negative 10. 6 times a negative 11 is negative 66. Minus, and we can also do 3 times 8. 3 times 8 is 24. Close your bracket. All right, inside our bracket, we have a subtraction. We're going to change it to adding the opposite. Bring down everything. Negative 66 plus negative 24 gives you negative 90. And then our last step is multiplication. So it is negative 10 times a negative 90 to give you a positive 900. Number 6 is a fraction. So we have to simplify the numerator, the denominator, before we can actually divide. So here's one way of doing it. We can do our work in the numerator first. So I'm going to change it to add and the opposite. Now I have same signs. I'm going to keep the sign and add. So that gives me negative 68 on the bottom. I'm going to change it to adding the opposite. I have different signs. I'm going to take the sign of the larger and subtract to give me negative 4. Now we can divide. 2 negatives makes a positive, so it's positive 17. The other way we can do this is rewriting the numerator and the denominator. I'm going to put parentheses around it. So this is my numerator. Or I could use brackets. And I'm going to rewrite my division. And here's my denominator. I'm going to use brackets on this side because I already have some grouping symbols. So 3 times, and then parentheses, 7 minus 4 minus a negative 6. Close your brackets. I'm going to change this first one to a bracket. All right, so we're going to start by doing the left side. I have to do my power first. Okay, so that means that negative 2 is being repeated 3 times. So I'm going to bring everything down. 7 minus, and negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 is negative 8. And I'm going to close my bracket, and I'm going to do the other side. Open my bracket, and inside I have to do, inside the parentheses, which is 4 minus 7, change that to adding the opposite. So it's 3 times 4 plus a negative 7. Take the sign of the larger and subtract, so that's negative 3, and then minus a negative 6. And close everything up. Go back to the left-hand side, and we have a subtraction problem, so we're going to change it to add and the opposite. And 7 plus 8 is 15. Put down my division, and now I'm going to go on to the right side. Inside here, I have 3 times a negative 3 minus a negative 6. So our next step is multiplication. So 3 times a negative 3 gives you a negative 9 minus a negative 6. Close that up. Now, since my left side's already simplified, I'm just going to bring down my 15 and my division. I'm going to go inside on the right side, and I'm going to change it to add in the opposite. Now it's 9 plus a positive 6. So I'm going to take the sign of the larger and subtract, and I'm going to get a negative 3. So my last step is division. 15 divided by negative 3 gives you a negative 5. For number 8, it's a division problem, so we are going to rewrite it. So we have our numerator written first, and we're going to put them in parentheses or brackets. So there's our numerator, and we're going to divide it by the denominator. start by doing the left side, the numerator. We need to do everything in the numerator before we divide it by everything in the denominator. So -1 times, we do inside the parentheses first. We have to change it to add in the opposite, so we get 2 plus a -6 is -4, and that's to the second power. Divide by 8 plus 8. We can also do the 3 times 4 because it's separated by subtraction, which is 12. Now we go on to the right side, which is the denominator. We're going to start and go inside we have parentheses, so we're going to change that to add in the opposite. So it's -3 times, take the sign of the larger and subtract, so times 4. And we can also change this to adding the opposite, so plus 6. Go back over to the left side, and we have to do the exponents. So -4 to the second power gives us 16. We divide that by 8 plus 8 minus 12. Close up the left side, and then we go on to the right. We have to do -3 times 4, which is -12, plus 6, and close your brackets. Back onto the left-hand side, we can do the multiplication. So it's -16 divided by 8 plus 8 minus 12. And we go on to the right side, which is -12 plus 6, which gives us a -6. All right, back over to the left-hand side, we have to do division next. So -16 divided by -8 gives us -2 plus 8 minus 12. And then we have divide by -6. We can keep the brackets in there, or we can clear them away. On the left-hand side, we have to do 2 plus the -2 plus the 8. That gives us 6 minus 12. Chain subtraction to add in the opposite. Bring down the right side. And then 6 plus a -12 gives us -6 divided by -6, which is equal to 1. Next section, it says evaluate the following algebraic expressions below when x is equal to -15 and y is 26. So x, we're going to replace with 15 plus y, which is 26, and then minus 9. The first thing we can do is change subtraction to add in the opposite. We can group our negatives together to give us -24 plus 26, and -24 plus 26. We take the sign of the larger and subtract, we get 2. Number 10, we're going to take our 2, substitute in a -15 plus 21 minus y, which is 26. Change subtraction to add in the opposite. We have to do multiplication first to give you -30 plus 2 plus a -26. First I'm going to do multiplication, so I get -30 plus 21 plus a -26. I can group together my negatives to give me -56 plus 21. Different signs, I take the sign of the larger and subtract, so I get -35. Last example, evaluate the following algebraic expressions below when k is 2, m is -7, and n is -4. So we're going to replace n with -4 plus k is going to be 2 plus 5m, so 5 times -7. All right, we have to do, during the order of operations, we go inside parentheses, and we have to do the multiplication first. So -4 plus 2 plus, and then we have 5 times a -7, which is -35. Still inside the parentheses, we're going to add 2 plus a -35 to give you -33. Bring down your 4 plus a -33 to give you -37. Last problem, it's mn, so that gives us -7 times -4, divided by a -k, so that's -2, minus 7 plus k to the third power. So in this problem over here, we have to do the fraction part first. So I'm going to do my numerator, so that's -7 times a -4, which is -28, over negative 2 minus 7 plus, and I'm also going to do my exponent, which is going to be 2 to the third power, which is 8. Now I can do the fraction. Negative 28 divided by negative 2 is 14 minus 7 plus 8. Chain subtraction to adding the opposite. And we have 14 plus a negative 7, which would be 7 plus 8, to give you 15.